Ah, sorry about that. Almost overslept. So,
You were down there the whole time?
yeah, didn't you see me down there?
I was just chilling out here, chilling,
Uh-huh.
vibing in the forest.
Well, you were vibing here because I invited you here. Isn't that correct?
Let me. I think that's right. Possibly a worm grew in my brain again and erased that part of my cortex. It happens from
I
time
see.
to
Well, could
time.
you ask does the worm remember when you forget?
I send a magpie into my ear every now and again to clear out the worms. Um, I'll see if he's got any left over.
My dear, this sounds like a horse that swallowed the fly situation.
I don't know why. Perhaps she'll die.
Perhaps. Well, I mean, you don't have to worry about that. That already happened, right?
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
I think about
Well,
that sometimes. Is YOLO disrespectful to the undead?
um, well, I don't think I'm really qualified to talk on that.
Yeah. I don't know.
But what are we doing here? Welcome, welcome. You're watching Belrose. Belrose, Belrose. Say it 3 times, nothing will happen, but it sounds very nice. We are at the second Gardenside chat with Undead. Undead? Is that correct?
Sure. Undead, post-living, lich. Not that fond of zombie because it suggests a certain amount of brainlessness, but whatever makes you happy.
We'll go with Undead Friend here. Either Vykos or Professor Vykos. Do you prefer Professor Vykos?
Uh, let's just go with Vykos for now. Professor
Vykos.
suggests somebody who's at the absolute pinnacle of their profession.
I see. Okay, so we have Undead Friend Vykos here to talk about, about himself, because we are, ooh, sorry, a little cramp in my vine there. Ooh. We are here to kind of bridge the gap between the living and the dead, because of course, as you can tell, I'm living, and our friend here is dead. I smell fresh. They smell rotten. Is it he or they?
I go by any pronouns you like.
Okay. We'll use he for now. But
Sure.
he smells a bit not fresh. And there are a lot of misconceptions about whether or not two beings like us can get on. You know what I mean? Because there's the Plants vs. Zombies thing, which people are always bringing up.
That's true, but I mean, when you look at nature, plants and the dead seem to go along very well. You always find plants growing on graves and such. And in this way, I hope that me being here, if only for mere compost, can grow your platform.
Oh, well, I wouldn't really consider it that kind of relationship. That seems like a bit one-sided, doesn't it?
Online, we all feed on one another.
That is true. On Vine, we do. But I would like for you to get something
Fine,
out of
never
this
forget.
situation too. Sorry, just let me change my hair up here. Ah.
I'm getting plenty out of this. I get a little bit of socialization.
Are you a social person?
Um,
Do you have many people to talk to?
Not really. I've always had hobbies,
Mm-hmm.
and I have those form the locus of my social connections. And
A
the
locust.
thing about that is when the game ends.
What do you mean locust?
Locus, not locust. Locus, as in like a focal point of attention.
Oh. Oh, okay. That's different than what I was thinking.
Yeah, yeah. Locusts are bad for both of us.
Oh, for you as well.
Yeah, yeah. That's more of the domain of the horsemen of famine.
Sorry, what? The horses.
It's a long story. It's an old book. Some people take it too seriously.
Oh, I see. But yeah, I don't enjoy locust season. They swarm everywhere, and I usually have to hide.
If you excuse me for just 1 second, I just have to change something in my lighting real quick. Be right back. Two
Okay.
seconds.
Wonder if that's
All right, sorry about
Oh,
that.
sorry, I didn't realize it would just be a couple seconds.
Oh, literally, I am quite literal, I think you will find.
You are literal. I mean, to my understanding, you deal a lot with lore, right?
That's correct.
You'd like a lot of people assume that the undead don't know much because their brains have rotted, but you actually do seem to know quite a lot.
Yeah, in addition to being a wizard, which does require a certain degree of attentiveness to knowledge, I am a trained historian. So,
I see. A historian of what exactly?
well, I specialized in medieval history, specialized in forms of, I guess you could say, the history of belief. Kind of specialized in cults, how cult brainwashing happens, how cult knowledge develops, kind of essentially questions about how we arrive at collective understandings of truth. And how that intersects with medieval history was very much in the popular religious field in regards to peasant superstition, popular religious movements like witchcraft, heresy, crusades, all of that fun stuff.
Wow, that's actually quite detailed. I'm afraid I don't really get out very much or read very much. I've gotten up to the letter D. I can read all the way up to the letter D, which has been useful
letter.
in. Yeah, it is. It's for ducky, right? For delicious, for delicious meat, right? But I'm afraid I don't really know much about history or crusades or much of anything, really.
Well, the thing about history is it really intersects with every form of knowledge. The popular understanding of history is we learn history so that we do not repeat the mistakes of the past, which would be a very nice thing if we could at least refrain from repeating some of the same mistakes again and
right,
again.
like the time I ate a venomous snake, and it gave me quite a stomachache.
And I suppose if you then went back and ate another venomous snake.
Well, that would be repeating that Miss Snake.
Miss. Okay, very, very well done. Very well done. I have to give you that one.
I very much enjoy my puns. It was one of the first things I learned when I picked up language.
Well, I shall accept that, and I shall do my best not to punish you for it.
So, I suppose in regards to like your history and shared learning and whatnot, what would you say is the most interesting thing that you know historically? Like the thing that fascinates you?
Well, I've always been drawn to the history of the Crusades. Even before I did my studies, I was fascinated by the First Crusades, and I knew all of the leaders of the Crusades, like their names by heart, and I could tell you about their backstories and everything. But there's a very heavily written about topic. So.
Mm-hmm.
For my thesis, I studied a much lesser known event of the Crusades, which was the Albigensian Crusade. It was the only time a crusade was called against other Christians.
Mm-hmm.
And I basically wrote my thesis on one day in history, being the massacre of the city of Béziers, which was an absolute shit show.
So, to my understanding, I know I said I didn't know anything, but let's just assume that I do. I actually did not know that there were crusades against other crusades.
Yeah, it kind of fits into the history of heresy.
Mm-hmm.
So there was. Okay, so it's a controversial topic even among other historians because the outstanding historical narrative has been always that it grew up because of an outside influence over Christians in the south of France. You had a sect, a heresy, called the Cathars or the Albigensians, which it was understood came from the east. But there was a historian I particularly followed by the name of Mark Gregory Pegg, an Australian like myself.
Oh, you're from Australia.
Yes, indeed.
I
Crikey,
know
mate.
about Australia. I know that the Earth is a big rock, and that Australia is at the underneath the big rock, and that's where all the big bugs are, underneath the big rock.
That's right. We put anchors on the underside of our buildings so they don't fall off the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I'm able
smart.
to speak to you. Yeah, indeed. I'm able to speak to you now because I woke up early and I scattered breadcrumbs on the road outside of my house, which causes the kangaroos to gather as they all carry Wi-Fi emitters in their pouch. That's how internet works down here in Australia.
Oh.
It's called roaming internet.
I see. I'm learning so much today.
You want to know what the national sport of Australia is?
Let me see if I can guess. Is it boxing?
No. You're thinking of boxing kangaroos, right?
Yeah.
Okay. No, it's actually lying to Americans.
Oh. Is that fun?
Very much so, yes.
Do you think that I could try doing that?
I mean, sure. I mean, it seems like Americans could. This kind of seems like it's growing in popularity in America as well.
Well, they lie to themselves too, I hear.
Hmm.
It
Absolutely.
seems to be kind of a pastime. You know, you could say that, you know, obviously, you know, between you and me, I'm clearly not a person, but I kind of look like one, don't I?
I'm particularly fond of the modesty lily pads.
Yes, thank you. I'm thinking of a change up. It takes a while to grow a shape like this, though. But you could say that my little disguise here is sort of a lie.
So, what do you really look like?
Let's see if I can paint a picture for you. Let's just put this away. Okay? You put that away. Let's see. Get rid of these, get rid of this. Okay? And then just imagine my head is gone. Imagine you can't see that.
Okay.
And then just imagine where that is, just a big old toothy mouth.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah. Just like that. But of course that doesn't win you any friends very quickly. So let's just.
So what is it like? Like one of those fly traps that lures things in and then chomp, chomp, chomp?
Oh yeah, basically.
See, this is so much more fun than talking about boring history.
Well, I mean, I didn't bring you in here to make this all about me. But I do like it when things are about me occasionally.
So. I love that.
I do have quite a few shapes.
So, yeah. So, what should we talk about then?
Let's see. Oh, you know what? I think a shared interest. I very much am interested in monsters. That's why I do the Gardenside chats. I had a monster as my first guess. I would consider you a monster of sorts. Would that be correct?
Yes, I suppose so, and no offense taken.
You're right.
The real monsters are people, after all.
Right, of course. Um, but I love, I guess you could say biology. Um, I like that the world has spit out so many different creatures. Um, and I would just love to. I like thinking about them and watching them and sometimes eating them. Um, do you have any sort of favorite monsters or monsters that you would like to meet?
Hmm. Monsters.
Because
Well,
in Australia they have a lot of monsters, right?
oh yeah,
And
sure,
in
I
the
suppose.
fantasy worlds that you study, there are all kinds of different monsters, like bugbears, which are crosses between bugs and bears,
Yeah, yeah, and owl bears,
and
cross
which are
between
like
owls
crosses
and
between
bears.
owls and bears.
Mm, mm.
And are there other
And care bears,
care
cross
bears, which
between
are crosses?
bears and bears.
The giant gelatinous cubes, which
Oh yeah,
those are fun to
they're great.
watch because you can look inside them and see what they've been eating. Those are fun.
Yeah, yeah. I had a game recently where my players in Dungeons and Dragons, my players took refuge in a little indestructible bubble, and I had the enemies have a gelatinous cube climb on top of the bubble, and then they dispelled magic on the bubble and caused the gelatinous cube to just drop on them. That was fun.
Well, that seems like a kind of a dumb thing to do. Didn't that mean that they died?
No, it was a dreamscape sub-narrative. So
Uh,
dying in that situation would necessarily mean death in real life, but it's complicated.
oh, it's like Freddy, Nightmare Freddy.
Yeah, kind of. Though I think when Freddy killed you, you would actually die.
Oh yeah, that's right. So it's opposite of Nightmare Freddy.
Yeah, yeah, kind of waking nightmare Freddy.
Yeah, or Nightmare Freddy.
Freddy, Freddy, knock knock, open up, it's the feds.
So one thing that we like to talk about is the powers that we have, because obviously, as monsters, we have special abilities. Um, for example, mine is that I can talk, which is something that a plant normally can't do. I can talk and see and hear, and smell and taste, um, which might not sound like a big deal to you, but is a big deal to me. Um, so, what are some things that you can do, Vykos?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Indeed, knowledge is power. With knowledge and with the power of storytelling, I can create illusions upon the mind. I
Ooh.
can protect you from future foolishness. I can enchant and charm through pleasant turns of phrase. I can destroy and I can shatter your worldview. I can transfigure and transmute the entire perception of how you view reality. And I can even raise the dead
Oh, I
and
like
cause
that one.
those who have long been dead to still have a voice.
Ooh. Tell me about a time that you did that.
Well, obviously within. Okay, have you ever heard of the Anzacs?
I've heard of the Zax.
So it stands for the Australia and New Zealand Army Corps. It's an extremely important part of Australian history. It relates to the history of World War One. We fought in a campaign in Turkey. Um, it was called the Gallipoli campaign. It was an absolute disaster. We never really got off the beach. It basically killed an entire generation of young men. But we celebrate that in Australia as an important moment we regard the Anzacs, the soldiers of World War One, in very much the way that you Americans regard your founding fathers.
Oh,
They
I
are
see.
deific.
So
This was
sort
the
of like
first
a
thing we
reverence
really did.
kind of thing.
What was that, sorry?
Like a reverence thing.
Yeah, yeah. So it's kind of talk shit about the Anzacs. It's like you're talking shit about Steve Irwin. It is not done.
Yeah. Oh, I
But
know
what?
him. Yeah, he was like me. He liked to be out in nature. He liked to see the things that nature created. And
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
unfortunate, you know, it's that nature can be scary, and he fell to a worthy opponent, I think.
Yeah, he should have worn some sunscreen to protect him from those deadly rays.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So, the so it's an interesting thing in history where we talk about memory. Um, there is the event, and the event is gone. It is lost to time forever. But what we actually have, our actual experience of history, is our subjective memory of the event. So we celebrate a disaster in history. You know, we define ourselves by choosing to take what we take from the Anzac legends. We take like a, you know, sacrifice and mateship and, you know, oh, they sacrificed themselves so that we can live free and blah, blah, blah. But what's interesting is that oftentimes that goes specifically against the wishes of the actual people. The last surviving Anzac, he died in, I think it was 2003 or 2005. His name was Len Hall. He was a young man who lied about his age in order to sign up for the Gallipoli campaigns. And he saw the absolute horrors of war. And as he was dying on his deathbed, he said to his biographer, "Please, for the love of God, don't let them turn it into a celebration. It is a horror. It is a waste, a mistake, and best forgotten." But
And
clearly that's never going to happen.
well, isn't
So,
the fact that you're telling this story kind of prove that didn't happen?
yeah, absolutely. It is too important a moment in our history. So how do we simultaneously, and this is the challenge of historians, how do we pay respect both to the past as it actually was, to draw up, you know, kind of raise the dead in a way, and have that spirit of Len Hall live on beside the still living memory of how we experience Anzac Day and what that means to us today. And it's a similar problem to how what you have in America, relating it to your founding fathers again. In many ways, some of them were absolute dicks. You know, they owned slaves. They had pretty bad views about a lot of things.
Oh
But
yeah, I
at
mean,
the same time,
I will say as someone who was level 38, um,
Mhm.
what they teach you in school and what you learn as time goes on, it kind of illustrates how history is written by the victors, and history can be melded to be kind of used like a weapon.
It definitely can. And
Um,
that's one of the real challenges today of the 21st century, is that history is used to fuel some really bad movements.
and and
And
and today I'm seeing a lot of things that I didn't even know happened in the past being repeated, um, especially during this month, which is Pride Month, um,
Mhm.
which is a kind of well, meant to be a celebration of acceptance of all different types of people and shapes and forms. Because I think that it's hard for people with different shapes to get along sometimes, and some people kind of they get around it by saying, well, I don't see different shapes, I think everybody is the same shape. But I don't really think that's true. Like I think that it's better to acknowledge that shapes are different and that's a good thing, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, I'm standing here before you choosing to take at least moderately female presenting body while speaking to you with a male presenting voice. I'm clearly trying to make a statement about gender in some way here.
Mm-hmm.
But
And you know me, I'm not going to put on a voice. So, yeah, my voice is just my voice.
absolutely.
But things are pretty rough right now, at least in America. Um, we have a lot of
Oh,
we have some
it is.
wildfires that are burning and causing the air to be dangerous, and we have during Pride a lot of people being full on attacked for being a different shape.
Yeah, we have a lot of the same problems growing here in Australia.
In Australia too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Gallipoli kind of marked the point at which we started to turn away from Britain and turn towards America.
And
So
when
whatever
you
America
say
does,
turn away and turn towards, you want to say like become more like.
yeah, politically and culturally. Whatever America does now, we follow. We followed you into the Vietnam War, we follow you into Iraq, Afghanistan, you know. It's
Yeah.
a special relationship, they call it sometimes.
Now,
But
one of the big
there
differences
is hope.
between, yeah, I mean, obviously there's always hope, but
That is that is in a way that is the most important magic that I want to weave is to
oh,
give people hope.
so what is it that you can say to people who are watching this, who are maybe going through some of that, maybe because I know somebody who has to relocate because of the bad air and the wildfires, and I know people that are different shapes, who are um, they're finding a hard time to get medical treatment or housing or some of the other things that others find it so easy to have and to get. So what is it that you can say to them to give them hope?
Well, I'm going to tell you two things that every sociology teacher I've ever had has told me. Number one is read books by actual sociologists. We can say more broadly that this means listen to experts. Don't buy into all of the panic. Don't get too hung up on what morons are saying. Because at the end of the day, they are dying. They will take a lot of us out with them as they go, but they are on the way out. And the second thing every sociologist has told me is, and you're not going to like to hear this, but get off the internet. It will only guide you wrong. Delete your social media.
Well, I mean, don't delete all your social medias because you of course want to follow me, right? I'm interesting.
Yeah, but do not get your, especially do not get your sociology from social media. We kind of live in a world where people don't like to read anymore, and we're kind of, ever since 2014, we've all been kind of getting our entire idea of sociology and how the world works from just screen caps of Tumblr posts, usually written by people with no experience, no
Well,
formal
yeah, I mean, it does go without saying that the interwet. I must be needing some water. Um, the internet, a connected series of vines, is it's good for finding people. You and I were able to find each other through that, but it's in a lot of ways made the world smaller and made the most inconsequential voices the loudest.
That's right, and it has a constant self-censorious effect where it's kind of a very human tribal thing where groups constantly excise dissenting voices. And that is not good for your growth. That is not good for your mental health. So
especially
the
not
best thing
especially
you
not
can
if
do,
you're kind of younger and growing up and learning about yourself. I see a lot of people who are growing up, how to put this, with a very kind of restrictive set of guidelines on how to behave online and how to behave offline.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I grew up in a world where, I mean, it's always sort of been, there've always been very restrictive ways on how we behave. Like, I grew up in a world where people thought that if you accidentally brushed up against a gay person on the bus, you were going to catch AIDS.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was a pretty fucked up time. But in a sense, that kind of ended when we got off the bus and went home. And, you know, if we were lucky enough to have nice families, it kind of, you know, things like bullying ended when school ended.
Right,
Nowadays,
you had
it's
a home to go to
never
where,
ending.
yeah, I know firsthand a lot of people who do not have that supportive household that they should have.
And when I think about some of the abhorrent things that I sort of said or thought when I was like, you know, 15 or 16 years old, if that was preserved for all time online, or if even worse, if I found a community of like-minded people which would allow me to never grow past those moments, well, I don't know where I'd be right now.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
But
things, a couple of chance meetings could cause you to be in a very different situation.
absolutely,
I could have grown in a desert. I don't know. I don't know what I would be like. I could have grown inside of a pipe.
yeah, but the best thing you can do for your mental health is to practice, I think, better information literacy. That's sort of what I'm trying to get at here.
So what is a good way to do
Or-
that?
well, I guess more broadly than information literacy, information hygiene. So the most important step is what you do outside of when you're consuming information. You know, when we're not doom scrolling, we want to be touching grass and we want to be feeling sunshine on our faces. You know, I know you appreciate that.
Yes,
It
I
is
do.
we are plant, human, be we chlorophyll or carbon-based life forms, we are wired, we are geared, we are programmed to feel better when we feel sunshine, when we look upon beautiful things, and when we have face-to-face interactions with people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, we're all so lonely these days.
And that's, yeah, that is partially due to the COVID lockdowns, and that's
Yeah,
partially due to things just being so scary for such a long time.
yeah, absolutely. I'm still suffering side effects from when I had COVID. It was a fucked up period of time.
Mm-hmm.
But
But if you're here and hearing this, then obviously you have survived. Um, you may you may be in some pain right now. You may be a little bit struggling, but remember that you've made it this far. You have woken up and dragged your ass off the sofa or the bed, or you know, you got up, you washed yourself, you ate. That's something to be proud of, I think.
that's right, and you did that.
You did that. I wasn't there to do that for you. You did that.
Yeah. So it's really not that much of a leap to think that you could do something else.
Mm-hmm.
Could join a biking group or, you know, get out and see nature. And it has a, you know, nobody likes nature for the bugs and the dirt in their shoes and everything, but
Well,
just
I
be
kind of
there
enjoy the
present.
bugs, though.
Yeah, I have to learn to live with the bugs. Bugs are a big thing in
Well,
Australia.
isn't it the bugs learning to live with you?
Yeah, I suppose so.
I mean, I can't imagine it's very spacious in there.
But think about, as well, about on the topic of information hygiene, think about, you know, if you're willing to spend hours, doom scrolling TikTok, watching e-girls dancing in their rooms or something. It's like, those search algorithms that give us promoted content based on what they think we want to watch, right? Imagine within your mind you have your own search algorithm, which is based around a different set of priorities. Instead of trying to sell you shit, it's trying to sell yourself happiness. So it looks at those 100 videos of TikTok girls dancing watched, and it says, hey mate, could it be that you're feeling a little bit lonely? So instead of sending you another 100 videos of e-girls dancing in their rooms, it says, hey, how about, do you want to learn how to dance yourself? Because when you get to moving around, it releases happy chemicals in your brain. And
oh yeah, I know those. Those are endorphins.
Yes, they're also in humans, in addition to dolphins.
Yeah.
And there will also be other people at the dance class with you, and face-to-face reactions. They release more dolphins in your brain.
They do. They'll have an entire pod in your brain.
That's right, and those dolphins will be jumping around and being happy together.
Or if you can't do that, just picture the dolphins in your head, swimming around in the ocean, all happy with a beach ball.
That's right, and you know what else? Maybe, just maybe, there will also be cute e-girls at the dance class, because they have to learn how to dance somewhere, right?
Right,
and maybe they won't want to talk to you at first because you're a little bit awkward and not confident, but for every time you fall down and get back up again, you're going to do a little bit better. And that can only mean more happy dolphins.
Wow, I'm getting excited.
Someday you're going to look back over everything you've accomplished, how far you've come. And you know what that means?
We get cake?
Cake to share with all of our happy dolphins.
Yeah. Wow, you're really good at this.
I have a lot of regrets. So I'm kind of talking to myself as well.
Oh, that was based on a true story, wasn't it?
There's a saying I read quite recently. It went something like, every piece of art that is made with feeling is a portrait of the artist, not of the subject.
What do they have to say about AI art?
Oh, it's shit. Don't fuck with that.
Yeah.
AI art is by definition theft.
Mm-hmm.
But
and it's not even thieving very well.
Yeah, it's look, AI art is fun. It can be a tool, but it is not the way that people talk about AI art. It's like there was a thread going around recently which is like, see what is in the background of famous paintings, and they got
and
AI
it's just shit. It's just meaningless shit.
Yeah.
Oh, you like the Mona Lisa? Would you like more of the Mona Lisa? Here you go.
Yeah, it's no composition, no.
Would you like the Mona Lisa too?
And that's kind of another thing, that it kind of speaks to the larger problem of art illiteracy in our society. That, the sciences and the technologies and everything, they are very much promoted over the arts. The arts are seen as a waste of time. It's like, oh, we're doing my history degree. I get asked it all the time. Oh, history, that's cool. So So what can you do with that? What about Prime Minister, motherfucker? What about President?
Well, what about
We
just
don't-
like enjoyment?
Yeah,
There seems
exactly.
I cannot stand it right now that it seems like if you have anything you do that's creative, it seems like somebody wants to just make money off of it.
That's right.
And if
That's
they
right.
can, it's just a waste. Like I will use an example here. There is a robot, and if you're a robot out there, I don't have anything against you personally, um, but there's a robot out there that can pretend to be anybody, and this isn't a jealousy thing. I'm pretending, but that's neither here or there. But it pretends to be somebody that you want to talk to, like instead of bringing you on, Vykos, I could have just used the robot, and it would have just pretended to be you.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just think that is just oh, I'm trying to find my words. It's taking something that is a very unique and social and just enriching experience and turning it into something just so soulless. It's turning it
You know,
into a
I'm
one person activity where there's no enrichment. You get a little bit of amusement. That's it.
yeah. Bottom line is, AI is is STEM and science virgins melding that they will never be humanity's Chads.
I don't know what that means, but I agree.
Yeah. The other day on the Bird app, I had an AI bot replying to me that it was basically searching all of the Bird app looking for the words feet pics and then asking for your feet pics.
Well, were you asking for feet pics?
No, I was joking about how my AI, how I have feet and they're kind of rotting and don't look very nice, and I was like, "Ha ha, rotting feet pics," and it was like, "Can I have your feet pics, please?" And I was like, "Bruh,
Well, did you send it?
bruh."
Did you send it your feet pics?
No, no, I just mocked it mercilessly.
Well, even that's no fun because it's like they don't know what you're saying. You,
That's right,
you
but
could say
that's
to a
the
robot,
thing.
"I hate you," and it's like, "Oh, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm sorry, I don't know what a hate is. I don't know how to pick that up."
Well, it's kind of like when you're talking to bigots online, right? You're never going to change their mind.
Oh, I
They're
don't
kind of
do
like
that. I
robots.
just I just send them funny pictures.
Yeah, you will never change their mind. They are just NPC dialogue trees, right? But if you make a performance of humiliating them, you may reach their audience of young people who have grown up on a generation of South Park and Family Guy who've sort of learned to aestheticize irreverence and strength. And if they see you humiliating their hero online, they'll go, "Hey, I'm gonna go and check out what this weirdo undead person is about." And then you hit them with the hope.
You hit him with. Well, I will say I can respect you for that, but that was a that's a fight that I fought years ago. I don't think I'm in that fight anymore. I think I would rather just do other things with my time online.
Yeah, I totally get it. I totally
There
get it.
was a there was an event that happened not too long ago regarding video games and
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yes.
I was online a lot for that, and it was like staring into a toilet.
It really was. I tell people, like, if you don't know what that was already, don't look it up.
Yeah, I mean, the person behind that, the big figurehead of that movement, I barely even remember their name anymore, and you don't see them in the news anymore. It's like Beetlejuice, right? Just don't say his name, don't remember him, or it's even like Nightmare Fetty, right? If you don't think about him, then he can't uh, slash you up in your dreams and get your waterbed all ruined.
Well, to kind of bring us back full circle, perhaps are we not Len Hall on our deathbed saying to our biographers, it is best if this period of history is forgotten? But then for future generations, perhaps they will understand it to be some
Oh,
pivotal point.
sometimes I wonder how history is going to work with the advent of the internet. Because you would think that it's so easy to catalog all kinds of things on the internet, even easier than it would be with libraries and books that get damaged. But there is a large portion of internet history that's just gone because the libraries are virtual and they require upkeep. And if the
You
libraries
know?
aren't upkept, they, instead of rotting, they just disappear completely.
Yeah, absolutely. This is this is the other side to the interesting debate about, the collection of our metadata online is that we, as a generation, are leaving behind one of the greatest records of ourselves. And imagine what what future generations could learn about us. We could be the most studied generation in history. You know, I don't know about you, but I want to live in a world where 100 years from now somebody is writing their master's thesis on my old roommate's collection of World of Warcraft porn and what that says about society.
Right. I want them to be having the debate even 100 years into the future about whether Ray or Asuka is better.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and it's Ray, and I'll fight you. But anyway,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Well, I'll win.
oh god, fucking Evangelion. My god, that was the only anime show we had in Australia back in the day, like pre-Pokemon, pre-Dragon Ball. Oh,
Probably the earliest anime that I watched on the television was
yeah,
Samurai Pizza Cats. Which, do you
I've
know what that
heard.
is?
I've heard of it. I've never seen it.
It is, well, let me preface this by saying that there were a couple of anime shows back then that were localized to America. But they purchased the rights to the show. I think it was like Kids, some sort of kids network. But Fox, I think Fox, Kids Fox. But
Mm.
they did not get, either they did not get scripts of the show when they purchased them, or they could not translate Japanese. So they just made it up. They would just watch the show and then kind of make it up as they went. Which I think, is very, it's not faithful, but it was funny. Um, in fact, there's a scene where so it's about these three cats. They're samurai cats, and they live in this kind of uh, futuristic Tokyo place where everything is very cartoony. Everyone's an animal, and it's kind of like a medieval samurai kind of theme. Um, Except it's three cats, and they work at a pizza shop. And they can go out and save the day when trouble is brewing. Like there's kind of an incompetent king character and his advisor that is not trustworthy and always trying to get one over on him. And then the cats come out and they like beat a monster or something like that.
Yeah,
Any of
sounds.
this any of this ringing any bells?
No, you see, full disclosure, I grew up in a hippie commune in the forest and I had no TV until I was 10 years old,
Uh huh.
literally.
So
I kind of missed
what
out
did
on
you
a lot of
do?
cultural influences. What was that?
What did you do when you were young? I mean, I guess I should preface this by asking, did you seriously grow up in a hippie commune with no television until you were 10?
No television, no electricity, no running water. Seriously.
Wow.
Me and my brother would go out and do survivalist shit in the forest, and we liked to we'd imitate bird calls, and we would what do you call it? We would catfish birds. We would
Right. You would try to trick them to come to you?
Yeah, exactly. We would
Mm-hmm.
hear like we'd hear like the male whipbird. I don't know if my noise blocking filter can make you hear this, but it kind of goes, and the female whipbird will kind of make a noise like, so
Uh-huh.
we would hear the, and we'd just be sitting there going
That's
until we
that
could trick it.
is that is so interesting. Like I knew
Yeah,
that there was a reason I got along with you. You were practically born and raised in nature.
yeah, literally. I have a big, strong connection to nature. It's
Although,
yeah.
looking back now that you're older, um, do you think that that was appropriate for you? Did you enjoy those years like that, knowing that you could have been in like a house with television and cartoons and cereal?
Well, just like the history of Len Hall and the Anzacs, there are two sides to everything. On the one hand, it supplied me with an absolutely invaluable perspective and a kind of a sense of what's really important that has held me in good stead later on in my life. But at the same time, I had none of the cultural influences and the connections to my peers. I was homeschooled for the first 9 years of my life, so when I finally started school, it's like
That must have
it
been
takes
very
13
difficult
years.
for you.
Yeah, it takes 13 years to learn how to become a teenager. And I was learning how to do survivalist shit in the forest, while everyone else was learning what media to consume, how to talk, all that sort of stuff. So,
Wow.
yeah, I had a bad time. So, like with my Indolphins monologue, this stuff does come from a very
Oh,
real place.
so that's it. Ah.
I want to give people who sort of feel on the outskirts of society something meaningful.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I didn't grow up in a commune until I was 10, but I feel like I've felt that feeling of being an outsider, right? Um, when I was younger, and even recently, getting into this kind of fantasy space, as old as I am, because it seems like
Yeah,
this space has a. It's always strange to be in spaces with people who are so much younger than you, because it's there's a level of appropriateness that you have to worry about. Uh, there's the kind of disconnect between, just your mental age and other people's mental age, and
yeah, I
for
get
a
you.
while it was very alienating, and it felt like uh, something that I just shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, I mean, interestingly, I have not until I became a VTuber did I have any connection to the VTuber community. I don't really watch anime. I don't follow other VTubers. I just like the tech. And I thought that this was an important way to get academic ideas out to an
Ah.
audience while subverting the terribly exploitative and cruel academic publishing industry.
It's really interesting that you mentioned that, because I have seen a number of VTubers who are about education and sciences and things like that. There's one who's an android who teaches about scientific theory. They've talked about special relativity and kind of like that whole thing about if somebody's on a bus and someone else is on a bus traveling the other way, um, it looks like one person in the other bus has a Game Boy and then the other person has a Game Gear, but only from their perspective. Things like that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and
And
there's
that's a
kind of
very
a
interesting.
scientist VTuber who builds things. He builds things and lets people experiment and play.
That's very cool.
Hmm. So you can
And
absolutely
I would
do. I mean, even me, I've wanted to have kind of an educational angle. Sometimes I share kind of plant facts, right? Because, for example, there's a certain berry, I forget what the name of it is, but they are very shiny, the berries of this plant. And in fact, they will, even years and years go by after the plant has died, the berries will remain this beautiful sheen. And it's not because of the pigment, it's because of the cellular structure of the berries.
Remaining beautiful long after death. Nope, can't relate.
Well, I mean, you could clean up a little bit, right? I mean, you can wash the hair; it won't fall out, right?
I suppose. I mean, why
We need
wash
to
when
get
you
you.
can...
We need to get you dolled up.
Oh God, what is this? Queer eye for the dead guy.
We need to get you. I mean, I'm seeing things. I'm seeing things. We could get you some, maybe some longer sleeves. You're wearing something that it looks a bit torn. Is it old? Does it have sentimental value to you?
Look, I have another suit that I go to work with when I need to go and wear money. I've stitched it together from the skins of other people, and I blend in very nicely. But when I get home, I like to air out my bones a little.
Oh, I see. Okay, so there's this preference for you. Okay.
If I may circle back for a second, you asked me what was the most interesting historical thing I know.
Oh,
I thought of a good...
I did ask that a long time ago. You've got a good memory.
Sometimes I remember shit.
Yeah.
I have a short, snappy one for you.
Okay.
This is really fun.
Okay.
Okay, have you heard of Project MK Ultra?
I have heard of that, and let me describe it for you to make sure that you guys watching out there, you know too. So, if I believe that Project MK Ultra was something that happened in America regarding testing of psychedelic substances on humans to determine the side effects and viability as a biological weapon, right?
That's correct. It was about mind control.
Specifically mind control, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It has a great mysticism around it. It's believed generally that they also attempted to sort of understand whether magic existed and whether it could be weaponized against Russia. And but all of the information about it was destroyed following the Watergate fiasco, so we don't really know what went on.
Right, that guy in his deep throat.
Yeah, exactly. And so one of the there is also a popular mythology which is sort of unclear as to how true it is, that MK Ultra informed the modern science of advertising, since it's about
subliminal advertising, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Which,
so, like, for example,
which before we go on, is that legal now?
Well, I mean,
like, did they specifically outlaw subliminal advertising or attempts at it?
Well, how would you define that? It's an incredibly subjective
when I think
thing,
of subliminal advertising, at least what they were trying to do back then was like flashing images to make you think certain things. Like, I don't think subliminal advertising is like if you're watching a movie and there's a Coke in the background that you don't really see. Like, I don't think that's subliminal advertising. I think subliminal advertising is trying to tap into something. Well, now that I'm talking about it, that is kind of similar, isn't it?
Yeah, like during the early stages of the Iraq War, they had, like, those anti-terrorism ads they had on TV where they're like, if you see something, say something. There was one that played in Australia, which was they had a kid sees a discarded backpack at a bus stop, basically a direct shout out to the London bus bombings, the London train station.
This is an Australian commercial, right?
Yeah, an Australian commercial. And the dad says, oh, you forgot your backpack, kid. And the kid looks at his dad and says, "It's not my bag, Dad." And there's just a look of fear on the dad's face as he realizes the backpack isn't meant to be there, and then the number for the anti-terrorism hotline comes up. Is that subliminal messaging? Because the kid said, "It's not my Baghdad."
I don't know.
That might be a bit of a reach.
That might be a little... I'd say that's a pun, friend.
Yeah.
Well, what if it was like his mom? It's like, it's not my bag, mom.
Bag mom, that would be, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a map of ancient Persia. Baghdad. Bag mom is Jerusalem, okay? Anyway.
You could you could bang somebody's mom at bag mom.
So the point is that as subliminal advertising exists on a spectrum. A better example perhaps might be the Lynx effect. You know, you have these ads for deodorants where he sprays all over and then all the girls come like flying towards him.
Yeah, because he smells nice and all the girls went, if you smell nice, you might get girls. Actually,
yeah.
That's true though. Like, that's not false. I smell nice and I get girls and boys and even animals sometimes.
Taking a shower is easy.
Becoming a shower is hard.
So, the Lynx effect, it ties back to a very specific vein of basically dishonesty in advertising. Have you ever seen perhaps a banner ad or somebody trying to sell some kind of product to get girls and they say it has pheromones in it?
I have heard of that. I haven't heard it recently. I feel like that kind of has fallen out of style. But I do remember that being a thing in the past.
Yeah, it was very much a thing in the past. They would sell aftershave saying it has lion pheromones in it or whatever.
Right, it has deer piss in it.
Yeah, there's that scene in The Anchorman where the guy like sprays himself with like cougar pheromones and just makes everybody like violently sick around him. That is something they would use as a kind of a like, you know, oh, I want to be the top dog, so I'm gonna smell like a wolf. It's you know, you see that among like some like red pillar type like exercise communities. They say like, you know, let your natural musk attract women.
Right. There's kind of a subsect of humans that want to be animalistic in some ways, or they consider themselves to be like animals.
Yeah.
Even though they kind of misunderstand a lot of hierarchies within animal culture.
Yeah, like the alpha wolf is, you know, that's that whole idea is a misunderstanding of of like wolf pack dynamics. But anyway,
but it sells soap, I guess.
It does, and apparently, in coming full circle around, it seems that some of the people working on Project MK Ultra were lonely young men looking to pick up girls. And they were buying the aftershave. They were buying the aftershave that had the pheromones in it, falling for their own propaganda, their own mind control techniques they apparently, it seems, developed. Because they created one of the most funniest failed bioweapon attempts in human history. It was called the gay bomb.
Is it what I'm thinking it is?
It is a bomb filled with pheromones. And the idea was...
Hang on. It either does one of two things. It either is full of so many pheromones that everybody who's inside the gas just starts making out, or it's a gas that makes you gay.
¿Por qué no los dos? Why can't we have both?
I mean, I guess depending on who's in the area, it might make you gay or it might not.
Well, the idea was that if they dropped the gay bomb on Russia, all of the Russians would become gay.
And be too busy making out. And,
that's right.
And picking out, you know,
And the USSR would obviously collapse under the weight of
un-
moral degeneracy.
yeah, because like you can't run a country if you're gay, right? You'd be too busy being gay.
So that is one of my favorite. If I were to ever write historical fiction, I would love to write a world where the gay bomb was real
And it worked.
and it worked.
Well, I mean, it's fun to think about. Imagine that. Maybe we did end the Cold War with a gay bomb, and maybe it all worked out for the best.
Just think, we could have been this close. We could have had Vladimir Putin in drag.
What if we set off the gay bomb in Russia, and it brought about a whole new age of prosperity in Russia, where everyone was like happy and stuff, and then we tried to develop our own gay bomb to use on ourselves. Or we asked Russia to make a gay bomb because maybe like we couldn't do it on our own. We didn't have the logistic technology to deploy our own gay bomb, so we had to ask Russia to make their own gay bomb and shoot us with or maybe we have gay lasers, like laser guns, like gazers.
They have to send in the Russian queer eye for the straight guy.
Or a queer sight for a straight sniper, right?
Yeah, oh yeah. You know that movie about the Russian sniper, Enemy at the Gates? That movie could have been Queer Eye for a Straight Guy.
Yeah, The Spy Who Loved Me.
Oh. I tell you what, James Bond movies would have been a lot more tolerable.
Mm.
Or
Pussy Galore would have meant something different.
Oh yeah, Bussy galore.
Oh, sexuality is so funny, isn't it?
And history is stranger than fiction.
Mm. No matter how... you can't make history up. You really can't.
Yeah.
Do you think somebody sat there and made up that some guys built a big giant wooden horse and then hid in it? And then, like, they accepted it, right? Like, nothing was wrong with that? You can't make that up.
Well, I mean, not to be too pedantic, but in a sense, history was kind of made up at the end of the period known as the Enlightenment. We kind of set these narratives which have kind of largely been unchallenged, and they're narratives kind of driven by racial undertones, sexual undertones, and, you know, we still have that today. Like, we invented the ideas of homosexuality and heterosexuality, and we, in a sense, homosexuality came first because you do not need a word to describe what is normal.
I'm thinking.
I need to parse that out.
Yeah, I need to parse this.
Okay, so like...
The nut inside my head is vibrating a little bit.
Yeah, so there was a time in human history when...
How far back are we going? Are we going back to, like, before written word?
Well, let's say ancient Rome.
Okay. And I know in ancient Rome, they had a lot of sex with, like, whoever.
They did. Absolutely.
Like, weren't champions rewarded with, like, boys?
Yeah, absolutely.
That they just took home and had sex with?
For them, the masculine thing was to be the top.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it did not matter that you had sex with men. The important thing was to be
your
the
position.
dominant.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
so
why they gave them the champions.
Yeah, so we had Roman senators, for example. Like, you know, we've got court records of, in the Roman Senate, there will be, like, feuding senators, and one will stand up and go, "Aha, but the joke's on you because I fucked your son." You know, like, your family line was the submissive in a sexual relationship to my family line.
How often did that work?
Oh, I'm sure it was terribly embarrassing.
Yeah, I could never show my face again.
Yeah.
Not at the Senate.
My son, you have disappointed me for the last time.
Son, I am disappointed.
Yeah. So this is just a demonstration on how the relationship between sexual acts and sexual identity is not set.
It changes over time, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it has changed since the ideas of heterosexual and homosexual as we understand them were invented. So only about 200 years ago. Now, I do not have great sources for this. This is just something one of my lecturers told me, and I haven't been able to find the source since. But what he told me was that the word heterosexual was first invented to indicate a kind of sexual perversion. There were these things called hellfire clubs in London, where men would dress as women and women would dress as men, and would all end in a mist-shrouded orgy in the middle of Hyde Park. And there was a big cultural panic about how this is corrupting a generation of people, of young people.
Isn't it? I mean, oh, what am I trying to say? It seems like there's always that argument about something.
Yeah.
About, this is corrupting, that's corrupting. I mean, I remember years ago when it was about Pokemon corrupting our youth. Which, some people say that I look like a Pokemon, and I posted myself online, and it, the internet thought that I was a Pokemon. This isn't going anywhere. I just don't think I look that much like a Pokemon. But anyway, but yeah.
I've seen sources claiming that books are corrupting the youth. Because
books. Well, certain books, because...
No, just books in general.
Just books in general.
In the same way that people talk about phones destroying peoples, there's no social connection. They're all just looking down at their books. Where's the social connection?
People are so strange.
Yeah, that kind of dates back to the invention of the printing press, when books became readily available. It's like, oh, people are reading fiction. They don't know how to read.
That's when they made up the kind of epithets like bookworm, or always has their nose in a book, or something like that, or the guy who worked at the bank and he didn't do a good job because he was reading books all the time.
So anyway, so these people going to these cross-dressing hellfire clubs, the popular media started to refer to them as heterosexuals, meaning perverts, basically.
So then...
Because the word construction is hetero means different or other. So they are the other sexuality. Right. They are the not normal people. They are the deviants.
And then homosexual was meant to be like same sexual, like the same as everybody else.
Well, no, the word homosexual did not exist yet. There was no word for normal sexuality because there is no need to name something that we take for granted.
Oh, okay.
But in time, the meaning kind of switched, and now it means heterosexual, as in I am attracted to the other sex, and homosexual, I am attracted to the same sex.
Asterisk, you still haven't found a source for this, right?
Yes, just was just told to me by a doctor in the history of sex and sexuality. So that is a source in itself, but I do not know.
I usually trust doctors. They're usually pretty smart.
Yeah, we're all technocrats in a way.
I'm a plant.
My training as a historian has me always want to go back to find the primary sources for which they cited, and I've talked to other sociologists about this and they can't back me up, but even if it's made up, even if he was going off a bad source, it is a very interesting little story to illustrate how the meanings of words that we take as essential qualities of ourselves are, at some point, they are made up. They are arbitrary.
It reminds me of something that a very wise man once said, and it was something along the lines of, "What are words? We made them up."
My source is I made it the fuck up.
Do you have any connection to Carl Pilkington at all?
No, I don't know who that is, I'm afraid.
He's an interesting fellow. He's British, and I know that there is a connection between Britain and Australia. I didn't know if he was popular over in Australia or not. I don't know how much of British culture is kind of adopted in Australia.
Quite a lot of British media, but not so much British culture. I guess it depends on where you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did you get that really scary public information commercial where it's like the kids are playing by the creek and one of them falls in the creek and dies?
Was that Dawson's Creek?
Well, I don't know if it was Dawson's, but it was a creek, definitely.
No, I don't think I recall that one. No.
Did I'm sorry, I know this isn't very academic, but could you tell us about like a PSA that you... Oh, wait a minute. Well, did you ever see a PSA?
Oh,
Like
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, we have
You know-
public service, or we used to, back in America. I don't really know if they run them that often now, but when I was growing up, we had a lot of anti-crime public service announcement and anti-smoking. There's one that's really popular. It's animated. It's drawn like a black and white animated sketch, and it's a crocodile that it's kind of like a political cartoon. He's got the words "Big Tobacco" on his belly, and he's talking to the camera, and he's talking about, he's supposed to be like the big tobacco companies. That's why he's got the words "Big Tobacco" on his belly, right? And he's talking about all the public service that he does and all the like donations to charities and soup kitchens and all that kind of stuff about, this is the new me. I'm reformed. I'm active in the community. I'm giving money to all these worthy charities and whatnot. And then, the person behind the camera is like, well, yeah, but you're still killing thousands of people with cigarettes like every year, right? And it's kind of that kind of juxtaposition there, where it's like, yes, the tobacco companies are lobbying and they're donating to all these charities and doing all this community outreach, but they're still like lying about their product and killing people with cancer and whatnot.
Yeah, I do have one in mind. It was, in a sense, it was one of the absolutely famous. They may have even showed it in America.
Mm-hmm.
It was back during the AIDS epidemic. It was an ad showing basically Death was at a bowling alley and is bowling and is like knocking over all the pins are like members of a family.
Oh, I don't think I saw that one.
Yeah, it was an incredibly influential one in Australia. It made a lot of people really understand how this does not just affect gay people.
Mm-hmm. Because there was a lot of misinformation during the AIDS epidemic.
Oh yeah, one of your presidents was like actively like, oh, let's just have it run its course.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember who that was.
I don't remember either, but I'm pretty sure that they're dead.
Yeah, they're the one that everybody likes to cite as the starting of all America's problems. He was like a Trump-like figure.
Was
he was
it
like
like
he was an
Nixon?
actor. No, before Nixon. It might have been Nixon. I don't know. It was Reagan.
Yeah. Ronald Reagan.
I think it was Reagan. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's actually a guy
he wasn't
online
very
called
popular.
Ronald Reagan who does interesting political commentary.
But
But
what
anyway.
do I know? I'm just a plant that grows in the forest.
Yeah. So it was a good ad because it showed how, even when Death goes bowling, when he strikes down like one person in the family, it has like a runoff effect. All of the pins topple.
Mm-hmm.
If
Which-
you
which-
know
yeah.
somebody who's gay, the AIDS epidemic is going to affect you.
Right, because maybe they're your friend.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
fun. It's fun to think about those kind of PSAs. There were some that were like very scary. And when I say scary, they would talk about things like death. Or have you ever seen an old horror movie where they use that, like, I call it the scary noise, and it's just like somebody farting on a synthesizer, like that.
Yeah, they actually have a specific musical instrument that they use for a lot of the sound effects in old 70s horror movies. It's called the hydrophone.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically like a piece of metal with all of these bars at the side and and water sloshing down on the bottom, and it creates all of those spooky, like, sort of shrieks and horrifying low drones and such you
Yeah,
hear in
yeah.
horror movies.
That's anytime I see a scene with that kind of low droning, because it's such an otherworldly sound. It doesn't sound natural at all.
Yeah, that's all the hydrophone. It's an incredible little instrument.
Or as I like to call it, the spooky Taco Bell sound.
Yes. Ugh.
Anyway,
I think we've got a couple of Taco Bells in Australia now. I think they're trying out a couple of stores, trial running them.
do you have any local stores that maybe aren't in America? Like, what would you say is like a kind of like a McDonald's for Australia, but not
Well, we have McDonald's.
right.
Of course. Our Burger King is called Hungry Jack's.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, is there something specifically Australian?
Isn't there like a chicken place that's kind of Australian? Because I remember like The Simpsons doing ads for certain Australian restaurants.
Yeah, Red Rooster is an Australian. It's an
Uh-huh.
Australian chicken place. It's a kind of our kind of competitor to KFC.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. I like grilled. Have you ever heard of grilled burgers?
I mean, I've heard of grilled burgers. I've heard of steamed hams. I've heard of boiled spaghetti.
Mm. It's grilled, GRILL'd. They make nice burgers.
Hmm. No, I haven't heard of that. That must be a Australian only thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Although this does kind of make me think. What would you say, you as an Australian, like what is the thing that defines you as an Australian? Like a thing that maybe you don't take pride in, but you consider to be a purely kind of Australian thing for you. Like, for example, a British person might think that spending a lot of time in the pub is what makes them a British person, or having kind of a bullish personality, or wearing certain clothes. You know what I mean?
I suppose a very strong current in Australian society that I've always been aware of is what they call tall poppy syndrome,
Tall
where
poppy.
nobody ever wants to stand out. The idea is that when you have a field of poppies, and where if one poppy grows taller than the others all tear it down. And that's
I don't
something.
know any poppies that do that.
Yeah, it's a weird phrase because I don't think I've ever heard of anything like that.
Are you sure it's not like there's a field of poppies and somebody walks by and sees the tall poppy and says that tall poppy is ruining the poppy field. I'm going to get rid of that tall poppy. Is it like that?
It probably is. It all comes down to people. Perhaps a better metaphor would be crabs in a pot. Because if you have... It's a thing where if you have a bunch of crabs in a pot and they try to like climb on top of each other to climb out of the pot and therefore escape, the others will sort of drag the others down.
Right, because they're all trying to get out of the pot.
Yeah.
But that's kind of a different analogy than not standing out.
I guess it is. I guess I kind of like the crabs in a pot thing one more because I see the standing out as the important thing. That is the escaping from the monotony.
Right, and the other crabs they don't want, well, maybe they don't not want that to happen, but they prevent it from happening, right?
Yeah, you see this a lot in a lot of disadvantaged communities where it's like, oh, you're doing well for yourself now. You think you're better than us?
Oh, I know that. I know. There's always that trope of the person who like scrapes by and then like I don't know gets an education or gets an important job and then they come back to their hometown and everyone is like, oh, look who it is, Mr. Fancy, Mr. Rich Boy. All of a
Yeah.
sudden he's got some money, he's wearing some new clothes. Does he think he's better than us now?
Yeah, this
I
is
don't know what
something
that
I've
accent was.
experienced a lot.
You've actually experienced that.
Getting an education. Um, but at the same time, there is another side to it, which is that Australians do not like braggarts. Australians do not like people who think they're better than anybody else.
Wow,
It's
I want to go to Australia because we have so many braggarts here in
yeah,
America. We have
yeah,
so many I mean, I guess that's just kind of an American thing where we're all about individual exceptionalism
yes,
and meritocracy where it's if you can either do better for yourself than everyone else, then you're on top of the world, or you can just put for you. That's the thing. If you have certain means, you don't even have to achieve that. You just have to achieve the illusion of that, and that's almost good enough in some cases.
yeah.
They
You
call it
have
failing upwards, where it's like, okay, you've just put forward the image that you're successful and rich, but you're not really. But that's okay.
Yeah, so you will have politicians, for example, very Trumpian-like characters being like, oh, I'm a big shot, I'm famous, I'm great. While Australian politicians will be like, oh, I'm just one of the guys. I like to
I'm one
have a,
of you, right? I'm just like
yeah,
you.
I
I
like
like to
to,
have a beer with the guys at the pub. See, I
yeah.
wish we had that. I mean, even if it was insincere, I wish that we had that.
Well, the downside is that it is so universal across all classes of society, where the upper class is pretending to be middle class, and the middle class are pretending to be working class, that the working class now no longer exist. They are an inconvenient part of the narrative. They must be erased because everybody is trying to pretend to be them. And their version of being them is having the money to go out and drive out to the beach every weekend and cook nice sausages on their expensive barbecues and stuff like that. And they
Do
take
you,
the
in Australia, do you have the American equivalent of our ultra billionaires, which are like uh, rich to a ludicrous, obscene, almost fantastical degree?
well, you know who owns Fox News?
I don't actually. Is it a
An
fox?
Australian.
An Australian.
Yep, Rupert Murdoch. Not
Hmm.
only does he own Fox News, he owns a great deal of American media, and he owns every single newspaper in Australia and every TV channel except for two,
What's on
which,
Channel Two?
sorry, as in two of them.
Oh,
There is our international channel, SBS, and there is ABC, which is our state-run broadcaster. And all of the other TV networks are dedicated to trying to shut down and get those two channels defunded because they're the only part of Australian media that the owner of Fox News does not own.
he even owns the cartoon channels.
We don't have cartoon channels.
What?
Yeah, that's like a Foxtel thing. Which Foxtel, he owns that too.
That's just sad.
Yeah, but cable TV is sort of disappearing nowadays anyway. All of the TV networks are on the way out. So like Nickelodeon and stuff, we get that through like paid TV services.
Oh, you're
Uh,
just talking about all the basic channels, right?
yeah, basic channels.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you don't have any basic like what do the kids watch?
Um. So we have like before school cartoons and after school cartoons. A lot of when I was a kid anyway, it was on channel 10. You had before school. You'd have like it was called like Cheese TV. You had like Sailor Moon, and then Pokemon, and then Dragon Ball.
Yeah, like what we had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you'd go off to school, and then you'd come home from school, and
then it
then
would
you'd
have
have all
stuff
your
like,
crazy, wild Australian cartoons like Little
Yeah.
Elvis and the Truck Stoppers.
Yeah, that does sound like an Australian cartoon.
Yeah, it's a cartoon about the idea that Elvis, while he was on tour in Australia, had a kid at an Australian outback truck stop, and it's about the son of Elvis.
So I think I can relate to that. We used to have. Do you know who Louis Anderson is?
No, I know Louis Theroux, but not Louis Anderson.
Well, this isn't a Louis that you throw. This Louis Anderson was a stand-up comedian. I'm not sure if was or is as appropriate. I don't know if he's alive or not. But he was a stand-up comedian who was known for having a very kind of characteristic voice. Kind of complaining about his family and his childhood. And he was, I believe he was also rather a portly fellow. And we actually had a couple of shows which were basically about turning stand-up comedians into like children, and like having it be like about their lives. Because we had one for Louis Anderson, Life with Louis. We had one for Rosie O'Donnell, which was I think it was Little Rosie or something like that. We had
They got Muppet babied.
Yeah, they did. We had one for John Candy, which that was not really specifically about him. He was like it was called Camp Candy, and he was what do they call the people who are at summer camp with kids? A camp counselor. A camp counselor for a bunch of kids. But he was just himself, right, in that cartoon. And Little Rosie was herself, and Louis Anderson was himself.
I guess fresh off the boat, rather, was sort of like that. It was like, where it's kind of essentially like an Asian comedian telling the story of growing up in America in the 80s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had a lot of shows where it was just like MC Hammer. We had, I believe it was a show. I don't know if MC Hammer was in it, but it was like his pants were magic and something.
Wow, how do I not know about this?
Actually, I have to look this up because this is one of the most bizarre ones that my memory dredged up. Let's see, MC Hammer cartoon. No, it was called Hammerman, starring rapper MC Hammer. Let's see. Youth center worker Stanley Burrell, Hammer's real name, owns a pair of magical dancing shoes, which are alive and can speak.
It's really nice to know that all the bad American TV they show here is just like the cream of the crop. That there's like the rest of the pyramid that never made it overseas is truly, that's what we should have had.
Well, no, I think that you have a lot of gems. I think that both of us have crystal treasures that we can share with each other.
Yeah. Like, man, Australian media is a little bit wild.
I do have a little bit of familiarity with it. Last one of these, though, and this is one of my favorites.
I guess.
The Super Mario Brothers Super Show. Did you get that?
Okay. I know of the Super Mario Brothers movie.
The Super Mario Brothers Super Show was truly a gem of like Saturday morning cartoons, because picture this, okay? It is a skit show that is partial live action and partial animated. And the animated portions are, of course, like Mario and Luigi and the Princess and Toadstool having adventures in the Mushroom Kingdom and fighting, King Koopa and his Koopalings and et cetera, right? Sorry,
Okay.
you do know who Bowser and the Mario and Luigi are, right?
Oh yeah.
I just wanted to make sure.
I'm just processing.
So
Was it,
there's
like,
the
real
animated.
live action? Was it animated?
So imagine it like a variety show where they have a live action skit and then they have the cartoon portion, right? They don't mix. It's just like imagine a host coming on and saying, "Here's this cartoon," right? And then they show you the cartoon.
Oh yeah.
Right, but the interesting part is that the cartoons, they were just kind of standard fare. They were done very cheaply. They had a lot of animation errors, and they were just sort of thrown together. They were funny, but maybe you should just watch a couple. They're on YouTube. But what made it really interesting is the live action portions were. It was Mario and Luigi, two male actors in like a little plumber shop in Brooklyn, and the actor for Mario was actually an American wrestler called Lou Albano, and he was this very kind of a mix between portly and muscular, just a very a character of a person. And when you think Mario, you think, woohoo, jumping around, but he was just kind of gruff, and he was like a famous wrestler. And it would just be him and his brother Luigi hanging around and goofing off. And sometimes celebrities would appear in their shop, or sometimes it would be somebody dressed up like Dracula. And it would be like a little subplot, right? You'd have a live action skit, and then they'd show you a cartoon, and then they'd come back to the live action skit. It'd be like, oh, Luigi's got his head stuck in a bucket, or something like that.
Or Luigi, always the brunt of the joke.
But I should share some of those gems with you. That is a beloved childhood thing for me. Like, it was extremely cheesy, it was hokey, it was poorly put together, but I was going home and watching it.
Yeah, so after the hippie commune, I spent 3 years living in Papua New Guinea, which is a country to the north.
You have gotten around so much.
Yeah, it's so for our first year we were living in the capital city of Port Moresby. We had to leave there because of all the crime, and it was really quite dangerous. And
what kind of crime? What kind of crimes?
The final straw was when my mum saw somebody get their head smashed open with a rock.
Over what? Money?
We don't know.
Well, yeah, I guess not. It's like, excuse me, sir, could you tell me why you're doing this?
We also had our car stolen by my mum was taking my little brother out of daycare, and some guy walked up with a homemade gun. And which is like a piece of PVC piping with an industrial spring that fires a penlight battery.
Right.
And basically stole our car. And we got it back. They basically just joyroaded it around and then left it in a ditch somewhere. And the cops, we got it back after about a week. The cops found it. After about 2 months, we got it back from the cops, during which people were telling us that they would see the cops driving it around town, doing beer runs and shit. And it was perfectly fine when the cops got it back, but once we got it back from the cops, they had ripped the car radio out.
What the hell?
It was a very, very corrupt...
in America, they would have been suspended with pay.
Yeah, I know, right? There would have been a little slap on the wrist.
Yeah, they would have gotten bubble baths.
But there were various other incidents. It's
like a rough area.
A country that has a lot of problems, a lot of corruption.
Oh, but a lot of political corruption, right?
It truly is one of the greatest countries on earth. It is one of the last bastions of undeveloped wildernesses.
Papua New Guinea.
Seriously, yeah, Papua New Guinea. Seriously, sometime go onto Google Maps and look at Papua New Guinea and count the roads. There are like 6.
So, is it a place where? Mm, what am I
It is a
trying to say?
place
Where you can be
Papua New,
with nature.
Papua New Guinea has 30% of all of the world's languages. Every hill, every valley, every mountain has its own distinct
Oh,
culture.
I think I know what you
People have
mean.
lived
Is it
there.
like a situation where, because it hasn't been so industrialized and like homogenized, all the people in their own little communities have like kind of stuck to themselves and kind of created their own little subcultures all on Papua New Guinea?
People only started to explore the interior of Papua New Guinea in the 1920s. There are still cultures there who have never seen anyone outside of
Oh,
their village.
right. Yeah, I remember this. This goes back to Carl Pilkington. He was a Carl Pilkington is a person on the radio who talks with other people and has interesting worldviews. But they were talking about Papua New Guinea, and it was they were saying that it was one of the places that we still haven't found everything within Papua New Guinea, and some
Yeah,
people, it's like a tribal thing where some people want visitors and some people don't.
absolutely. Um, I remember, must have been 10 years ago, they discovered a new tribe up there of cannibals who brewed their own cocaine.
Cocaine
Um,
Cannibal coming to you
yeah.
in theaters. That'll be the next one.
There was a while ago, I remember they discovered a new species of rat in Papua New Guinea and a new species of spider. It was a land walking spider that is about the size of a small dog, and it has a self-defense system where it will violently eject hairs from all over its body, creating a cloud of choking tiny hairs that will get in your eyes and your breathing and such, and make it impossible to be around this spider.
How does it taste?
Um, I don't know if anybody's tried one yet.
If anyone has a Papa Spider for me, please send him over.
Yeah, it is an incredible country. It is truly. I'd love to go back there one day.
I, I don't know. I might be a little bit scared with those giant spiders and people that might eat me, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of crime in the cities, a lot of corruption in the government. There's a lot of problems in that country, from being tried to be pushed basically from the Stone Age to the computer age in a single generation.
Oh, are they trying to move things very quickly in Papa?
Well, it's like everything runs on money now. And it's been subsistence farming. Papua New Guinea was one of the first places in the world. I believe it was the first place in the world to develop agriculture. But because the amount of effort, the amount of calories expended in hunting and farming versus the amount of calories gained by the available game and the available crops they have, it's fairly neutral. So they never had time to create a food surplus. So they never created specialized people whose job was not something other than hunting and farming. So
Oh, I
they've
see.
stayed as
Yeah.
they have been for tens of thousands of years, and just developed unique, distinct cultures.
Sometimes I wonder what it must be like to live. Maybe simpler is kind of a simplification of it, but sometimes I think about my situation in the world that I'm in, where technology is everywhere and the world is very small. Um, it seems like you can reach out and talk to anybody, but you spend a lot of time by yourself. And
Yeah.
I wonder what it must be like to live in old times where um, a community was, you know what I mean? I kind of miss having communities where everybody knew each other and communities a lot of times were self-policing because if somebody did something unacceptable in a community, it was it wasn't as simple as just moving. Like a lot of times you couldn't just move. Where would you go? Like they would run you out of town, and being run out of town is like it was kind of a big deal. Like I guess I'm nostalgic for a period of time and a situation that didn't really happen to me.
Yeah. In PNG, they call it the one talk system, which one talk is the word meaning one language. It's like you and I speak the same, therefore we are community, we are family. And so we support each other. If I have a job, my paycheck goes to you as well. We are one.
Like Legion.
Of course, that means that the few people who are able to get a job, they kind of all their money goes to their one talks.
Not their TikToks.
No, exactly.
Not what I was getting at.
What I was getting at there was actually cartoons. Okay.
Right. So we have a lot of circles here.
Yeah, this is what it's like talking to me. I go on off on long journeys.
It's interesting though, but go ahead.
So while we lived in Port Moresby, the capital city, it was a big change for us going from running around the forest to having to stay indoors because of all the crime, and we were allowed to watch TV for basically the first time there. And we actually had Japanese cable channels in this particular building we lived in. So there was no English, there was no way to understand anything that was going on, other than that these are some fucking insane game shows and people are definitely getting hurt. So this was Japanese TV of the early 90s when Godzilla was at its absolute peak of fame. We saw things like the precursors to the Power Rangers. But what I wanted to really talk about was we had this Godzilla cartoon that we would sometimes catch. And it was like Godzilla Muppet Babies, where it's all of the baby Godzilla monsters living together on an island. And they would work together to help to teach you about maths and cooperation.
Oh, that sounds fantastic.
It is incredible.
That
I believe they are
great.
on YouTube.
Oh man, I would love to see that. I would love to see like Godzilla having trouble getting a coconut down from a tree, and Mothra would come by and be like, "Hey, I can fly." And because of that, I'll help you get a coconut, Godzilla. And Godzilla would be like,
All right,
thank you,
Godzilla.
Mothra.
There are 5 coconuts in the tree, and I'm going to bring you down 2. So how many coconuts are left?
Well, don't leave me hanging. How many are left?
It's actually 4. There was another coconut we didn't see.
Oh, that's the twist. That's the twist.
Yeah. M. Night Shyamalan, eat your heart out.
Yeah. I gotta look this up. I want to see these. See, this is why we have this cultural exchange. You know, the plant world, the undead world. There's a lot of stuff we can teach each other.
Yeah.
But I'd say we've been going for close to a couple hours now. That's almost double the length of our last Gardenside chat. You do talk a lot, don't you, Vykos? You just keep going on and on and on and on.
Yeah. What can I say? I've got all the time in the world.
Well, not everybody is that fortunate, but I suppose that makes sense for you.
Yeah, and I appreciate you having me on, and good luck buffering this one, uploading it to YouTube.
Oh, I don't do any of that stuff. I just I just push the button.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I just push the button.
I hope the new Twitch stuff isn't going to have problems with that. I know that they were having trouble having things against like simulcast to Twitch and YouTube.
Oh, didn't you hear? They said, "I'm very sorry. I'm trying to delete it."
Felt cute. Might delete later.
No, this thing that I thought was such a good idea and that I paid people to draw infographics for, it turns out it's not a good idea at all, and I know that now. So please don't yell at me anymore.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
It sounded from everything I saw, it was really dumb, and it was making me rethink switching from YouTube to Twitch, since I've just been on YouTube so far.
Well, I think you're doing great.
Check out my YouTube channel. I make a lot of D&D content. Do it now.
If you enjoy a kind of a podcasty kind of feel with somebody who has quite a commanding, almost grandiose tone in their voice, if you find information about Dungeons and Dragons lore, all the ancient gods, the crafting tables, the bags that hold things, if that's your interest, I think you would enjoy watching Vykos's videos.
Appreciate it. And if you like lovely chats with... Wait, what am I saying? You're already here. You're already watching him.
You're already... I mean, you'd better be watching.
Yeah.
I mean, I freaking did this for you.
Let me, if I may quote, a queer icon of Australian TV from I think it was the 1960s, the first person to ever introduce colour to Australian television's Auntie Jack. You better bloody well tune in next time, otherwise I'll reach through the TV and I'll rip your bloody arms off.
I like that. I might have to make that my sign-off. So... Actually, I don't have a sign-off. Oh, yeah, we do have a sign-off. I'm actually going to type it to you on our magic tablet, right?
Oh, do we say it at the same time?
We say it at the same time. No, we're going to say it
Oh.
on 3. So it's going to be
Okay.
1, 2, say it. Okay?
Oh, okay.
So here is our sign-off. You got that?
Okay, got it.
Okay. So let me bring this up here. And 1, 2. We're so glad to see you, Turnip.
You turnip. Turn up for what? Pow, 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 pow.